Welcome to this new episode of the Water Talks podcast. I'm your host, Els Vanbeckevoort, and I am delighted to be joined by my co-host. Hi, Scott. How are you this afternoon?
I'm awesome, Els, and what a great day. It's not nice outside, but we are recording from beautiful Blue Mountain, and not much better places on earth to be, quite honestly. Joined today by Brent, Copeland, and Darin Kubicki from the town of Oakville, and are hoping to have a great chat about water.
Exactly. We're here actually during the Pro Expedition conference, and so I wanted to just ask you guys, maybe before we get started, just tell us your roles at Oakville, and then we'll get right into the conversation.
Sounds great. Thanks, Els. I'm Brent Copeland, Senior Manager of Operations for the town. I've worked there for about 11 years and had the pleasure of working with my colleague here for that amount of time too.
Wow.
Yep, you got it. And then my name's Darin. I'm Operations Supervisor at the Iroquois Ridge Community Center, and been working for the town in the operations capacity for about 14 years.
Excellent.
And been working with Brent along the way as well.
And for our listeners, actually, Darin was our guest in, I think, episode 5, which was actually very well received. So welcome back and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Conference, what do you guys think? How was it for you so far? You've been here for the whole conference, Brent?
Yeah, I arrived on Tuesday. This is my fourth, I guess, pro conference. I think it's fabulous. It really is a great, not only learnings, but also the networking, right? We've made a lot of great connections like yourselves, but other municipalities finding out what's new and innovative, and I was a presenter, so I got the opportunity for this one to present with Darin on some of the unique initiatives that we have done to improve our operations and become more sustainable.
Yeah, we did actually meet last year, I guess.
We absolutely did.
Which was excellent. So, yeah, thank you for coming to listen to us last year, I think. In our presentation? Yes.
Yeah, well, last year's presentation was very intriguing. I mentioned it obviously in our presentation today, the learnings that we took from that, and we shared the results from working with you. Excellent. And how fantastic they were. And that's another reason why these conferences are amazing, right? So you learn things that we wouldn't have otherwise learned. We thought we were following all the health regulations and keeping our readings at an acceptable level, but we didn't realize all the other. Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
Where else we can go?
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear that somebody actually listened to you and took it and then exercised that, right? Because so many times we go to things and we go, I got to do that, and then it kind of, you go back to work on Monday and
lots of other things happen.
The plate's full, so you don't get a chance to really embrace what you
100%.
What we're thinking about.
I think I reached out to Els the very next day when I got back to work for the proposal, right? And then never looked back.
And Darin had been coming to some of the sessions as well, so I think there was a good connection already. Perhaps, what did you think of the conference?
Well, so this is my first opportunity to come to Pro. I've gone to Orpha several times, but my first time coming to Pro. So I just kind of got here, and my first time, I'm already presenting.
Oh,
so
wow.
I just got shotgun started right into this. So, awesome already experience being here and then getting to see other people. And then after, doing the presentation, I'm already starting to network with people who are in the similar position as we were when we first started. So they had mentioned they had gone to your presentation yesterday and then came to ours to see, some of the other
we sent them your way, actually. They were like, okay, well, don't, just go talk to these guys. But anyway.
Well, that's perfect. They wanted to see the results. So again, same thing, like we were talking, you can present all the information you want, but do you actually see the applied knowledge through it? And we're a living, breathing case of that. So we wanted to be able to extend, our information, our processes, and say, hey, anybody can do this. We're all there. No one's perfect, but here's the way to go there, and this is what you can experience along the way.
Yeah, no, that's excellent for sure. Trade show, you've been there last year as well. Like last year, I think was tough. It was the first year back after.
It was the post-COVID era. We did a virtual trade show conference during COVID, and which was very difficult for everybody.
Hard to do, for sure.
It was nice to be back, and I love Blue Mountain. We went to another location last year, but this is much more like home. I've been coming to Pro for quite a few years, and I presented, I'll bet you 10 years ago now, and I was kind of an anomaly because I came in and did an operations talk, but you see now much more of that
Much more of
integrated
that,
into
which
the
is a
program.
really good thing, right? So,
And folks like yourselves are coming, and it used to be much a different
Yeah.
attendance.
so there was I thought, a much broader, trade show to start with, lots of different types of companies. I don't know, what was your impression, Brent?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think being at Blue Mountain attracted a lot more attendees, and as well as a lot more, vendors as well. Like last year, being in Hamilton, you didn't get the same draw, I think, because people weren't. It's an experience coming.
Oh,
here,
for sure.
right? It's fun to get away. But no, the trade show was great, very interactive. Got a lot of brochures and pamphlets to go back to, and a lot of giveaways as well. So
Yeah.
There's a lot of
very
people here.
informative.
There was a
There
lot of
certainly
vendors
was.
yesterday. It was full house.
Yeah,
so
big
that's
time.
a good thing.
I was surprised, actually. And
I always enjoy those. Going around talking to some of the folks.
I know they're the other vendors. We did the same.
Yeah,
Just to get
either
connected.
similar businesses or different. So it's
Right.
like going to a trade or to a conference. I always try to go to something that's not in my stream. So I've gone to lifeguarding and
Yes.
some of the different perspectives of it, just to hear what they're thinking, right? So that you stay current and kind of have a different viewpoint of the.
And recreation is such an essential service, right? Like there is, it's underestimated, I think. It's often kind of maybe thought of not in that way, but I think it's absolutely critical for communities. It's what brings communities
It
together.
branches out so many
It
different
branches out
directions.
so many things. It touches on health, all kinds of social benefits. And
Els, it's as simple as this. Why do people move to your town? They don't move because you got a great sewer system. Yay.
take that for granted. Yes.
Well, it's
I don't
true,
know.
right?
They know about it, but
Well, you know what I mean? They come because you have parks, you have trails, you have arenas, you have pools, you have places for seniors to go. Recreation brings life. We just were having that chat before the talk, right?
Yeah, couldn't
What do
agree
you
more.
value? Well, I like a value a place where my kids can have fun and grow and learn, and that's what we do for a business in the background.
Yeah, and we're fortunate in Oakville, right? The per capita, I think the number of pools and recreation facilities are much higher than other municipalities. We have 5 outdoor pools.
Right.
We have 5, going to be 6 indoor pools,
Yeah.
recreation fitness
Makes a
centers,
big
and
difference.
it's able to allow a lot more opportunities for people to utilize,
sure.
right? I'm very fortunate.
Yeah,
So
people
then,
want to live there.
how's your presentation? I unfortunately didn't make it there, which I was.
I was
sorry.
looking for you.
I know. Anyway, it just, I was with Scott looking for my pass, and then there was stuff going on at the office, and I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I'm gonna be able to talk about it in a fresh way with you guys here today,
Sure,
so
of
that's
course.
also nice. So, tell me, what was the main theme? What did you cover? Just for the listeners who were not at your presentation, there's something really useful, I'm sure, that you can share. So, what was the topic, and what are some of the main points that you touched on?
Yeah.
I know, Scott, you were there, and others were there too, but.
No, we wanted to present on some of the sustainable improvements we've made in our facilities, not only for green options, but also to make our facility operations better. Right, we've improved the air quality and water quality in our pools. We've done some amazing things with our refrigeration equipment and the filling of our Zambonis. We're actually using magnetic technology to be able to reduce the water temperature going in there, and have seen incredible results both financially as well as the GHG reduction. So we wanted to share some of those, and I think overall there was a lot of interest, and some of them are pretty surprising, right? And if I didn't do it on our own, we wouldn't have believed that some of them are even possible. Even with working with yourselves, right? We were banging our head against the wall trying to get better air quality results at the pool, and investing a lot of money into chemicals and basically literally draining them, putting them down the drain. We wanted to share these insightful things with the community, or with our members at Pro. But Darin, knowing his involvement, I had to ask him to join me and present, because he has been the leader for Oakville and really had some awesome results.
Yeah, you're infamous. I've heard your name mentioned.
Yeah. Every
times.
municipality needs a Darin. Yeah.
No, seriously, on Tuesday evening during the reception, a few people are like, oh, yeah, Darin. And I'm like, okay, well, all right.
well, I'm humbled by that, but I'm like you said, you need somebody who's passionate about it, and if you're going to implement a program like working with St. Ecotech, you need someone who's going to be, working hard to get that going, the training, the implementation, the follow-up, the feedback, be able to have an open mind. And our favorite saying, what you don't know, you don't know. So, me being humbled into that process, going to some of the better pool workshops, getting some information, getting some knowledge, getting humbled, thinking that I knew everything but didn't know it. I wanted to come here and aid with this presentation on trying to capture those same people that are feeling, they're in the same position, but effectively showing that, yes, we can fix the problems. And this presentation was based on sustainability and whatnot, but we wanted to show that, yes, we can fix the problems, but we can also optimize the retrofit and become more sustainable. So just fixing a problem is one part of that whole operation. It's the future viability that we can move forward. And I thought that was essential for people to understand that we can do that. And it's a scary topic because you're thinking dollars and cents and you're starting to panic. Oh, how am I going to get approval for that? And who's going to believe me on it? Well, let's start with a pilot project. Let's get it going. Let's show impacts. Let's show changes. And let's start changing minds.
That's
awesome. And one is passion, which you clearly have. You can feel it driving out of you as you speak. And then where does the beginning on a project? Like when you started, you went back to your office, you got a hold of Al's, there was a discussion, and then you go, where do we go? How do we start this?
Yeah, well, you need the senior leadership needs to be on board with those, right? And I think we have a very vocal community in Oakville, so it makes it, while it makes it easier sometimes to get things through because they're going to their counselors with, any small issue in the facility, which helps us when we're asking for some of these initiatives to get the funding for it. But, the proof in a lot of ours is the business case that you write, right? And we try to illustrate, what the return on investment is, what the improvement will be for the level of service, or, in our case with the exactly. And we've been very successful in getting a lot of these sustainable solutions put forward in Oakville. We're very progressive.
And just to keep going with that, and we have different groups here. We're at ProX, and you see the different groups. And yesterday when we were talking, I don't know if it's a disconnect is the right word, but the folks who run the people, the on deck, and then the operations folks, and then the project folks, right? Getting everybody to work together and connect, and then you will have consultants for if you guys are doing new projects, getting them to understand what you're looking for. This is what we want, right? So how do you bring that all together? And did you have meetings like about this as a group, or did you just kind of say, this is what we're trying?
Well, I think, and I talked a little bit in my presentation today, that in our past project at Oakville Trafalgar, it was an IPD project, Integrated Project Delivery. And if you're familiar with that type of construction, it's a very collaborative process where the contractor, the architect, and the municipality are working together on all these initiatives. So we came with the issues that we were having at Oakville Trafalgar, or at Iroquois Ridge at the time, and wanted to find a solution. And we looked around at different, options for that pool, and found the Nateri brand pool that kind of checked all the boxes we were looking for at the time. But then, to your point, we had to then build that into the budget to be able to justify the increased cost. But I think Darin can attest to the operation there. It has been very successful and checked a lot of our boxes.
For sure. And those things are all, it's kind of this integrative approach. In our presentation yesterday, I started off with, okay, you need to first understand all the different systems within an aquatic space. And I think, the impression that I got as I was just asking some questions to the audience is that people don't fully appreciate that they're all connected, that they're all correlated, that there isn't really a singular issue or a singular solution either. You have to have this integrated approach. And there's a gap often, I think, in understanding, systems thinking is something that's become very popular in management as well. But how do you practically then implement that, right? How do you come up with strategies that considers all of those different moving pieces? I wanted to ask maybe just to go back to your presentation. How did you feel it was received? What were the comments afterwards? What did people come back with?
I got swarmed right away, and I was hoping that would happen because, like I've mentioned before, you're really hoping that there's that one person who wants a little bit more information along the way, and so I was thrilled that there was somebody that could have that discussion with me of where their struggle and pain points were, so that I could say yes, same as us. But he was really interested in how we were able to get those tangible results and how did we get there and when was the time we did it. And I mentioned to him that we wanted to do this during our high occupancy, high load, frequent user. And we chose to embark on this process during our summertime sessions. If we're going to get a result, we want to get it when it's busy. And so I was, trying to make sure that he understood that you want to get the best value for it, and we want to make sure that we can prove that it works. If we want to be able to move this into additional facilities and make this a town-wide approach, this is no better time than ever. So really happy to see that there were some people that were interested in, hearing more about it and being able to network with it, and certainly seeing it from different results, but getting to share some of the experiences along the way and compare, our facilities and, how we can get that working.
Yeah.
Well, I think there hasn't been a presentation that I have seen yet that showed the data on a lot of this, right? Like where we, showed the GHG reduction, showed the financial savings for these initiatives. So for some people, that is going to help them, I think, understand it a little bit better and perhaps help them sell it to their, senior leadership and councils, right? So we wanted to, show that data-driven kind of decision.
And I think it's essential because regulations take a while to catch up, right? Regulations take a while to drive these processes, so we have to look at other ways in which there can be a cost benefit.
And regulations are a minimum. Right, so that's where we get stuck.
Yeah.
People will say to you, "Well, you're meeting health code." If you talk to anybody in any location, they goes, "Well, we're meeting health code," and what we're discussing here today isn't meeting health code; it's exceeding health code.
Yeah, big time.
And the other benefit is we're saving money over the long term and better air quality. And you had a swim team that was in trouble and vocal.
Yes.
Luckily vocal. Really, I know it's painful when it happens, but the reality is that's the kick for response.
Yeah. Well, we were at a very challenging time last year at Pro, right? We were in the thick of it with the swim teams and our users. We were investigating, bio-ox filters and using all kinds of different chemicals, and nothing was working. And so it was like a bright shining light when I went to your presentation and thought, oh my gosh, this might be the answer. And, it has changed everything. So we're really.
And I also agree with, the struggling point that we were in. It was a, opportunist, position for us to be in. But I think what's leveraged us and our success as well, which, I didn't mention in the presentation as much as I maybe should have, was that keeping those core user groups informed and keeping them in the process. So we were making sure that they understood what the changes we were making, what the results were along the way. And, their information system was based on the same that we had, was that development, that, standard knowledge base of pool chemistry. Here's the pool regs, where are you to keep it in between that? And, throughout this whole process, I've started to understand that the pool regs are there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy and the water's healthy. It means that it's safe and it means it's meeting regulation, but that doesn't mean it's healthy. That doesn't mean it's efficient. That mean it doesn't, it's not there for sustainable viability. It's there to maintain a safe regulation. And so us, working together and adopting those principles and doing some fine tweaking, we had to ensure that the swim club also recognized that we were doing these changes and what was going to come out of it, but getting their feedback as well was instrumental for us to understand that we were actually making a difference. We could see it on paper, but actually hearing it back from them, it couldn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
We've organized kind of regular meetings with them, and Darin did presentations on, basically what we showed the team today, but our findings, and walked them through the process. And it allowed that, open communication when they were providing us the great feedback.
You are famous.
Yes.
Sure is.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a rumbling.
Air quality is not just the issue, though. And it was interesting yesterday as we We presented some case studies as well, like not you guys, because that was for you to do today, but some other implementations or other things that, within a system that can make a significant impact in our waste calculation tool, to be able to demonstrate, reduction in cost, reduction in risk, and a reduction in greenhouse emissions. And so the interesting thing to me was, as we were asking people what they knew about their process, they knew very little about their process. And it seems to me that there's a disconnect. Like, you as a senior manager may have visibility on it, but, many of your team members, just nobody really knows what some of those potential, systems are, what those cost issues are, what those different factors are that can influence your cost and your risk and your sustainability footprint. Like, people don't understand. There's a big disconnect. And that was what I got from yesterday.
Well, exactly, Al's. And I think what I like about that is the folks on deck don't know what the hydro bill is, because it's paid over there.
Right.
And I don't really know. I just go to work every day. Operators don't know the cost to run their building.
No.
I ask it all the time when I do classes. Do you know what this facility is worth? And somebody will say a new rec facility is worth $8 million.
Right.
Well, so you realize,
Wouldn't that be great?
well, you're involved with it, so you recognize how, and I'll say this building's probably worth $80-90 million to replace
Right.
that we're standing in today, and they flabbergasted. Just the real cost of things. What's the cost of energy in this building? But it's not connected until but you're bringing that all together.
Yes.
And I think there's so much, and it's healthier. And your people, your staff are healthier, and your swimmers are healthier, and you're saving money. It's just very much more holistic. If that's the word to use.
Yeah, no, I would agree completely. I think, in terms of facility operations, we weren't having even standardization across our pools just within Oakville, right? Let alone,
Silos.
all the other municipalities. So for us, starting with the one pool at Iroquois Ridge, and Darin's now taking his knowledge and then applying it to the other pools, right? So our goal is to have every one of our pools aligned, through this process, but it does take time.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about this yesterday, the things that you can do to get to this optimal state. And, the things you can do, of course, is to go beyond regulations and to try and adhere to, or at least benchmark against a higher standard, which is what you guys have been doing for some time now. But then also, you have to continue this systems-based approach. Though you may have solved your air quality issues, there's still lots of things that can happen to, get to that best practice in this optimal state. And there's a lot of cost benefit, but it has to be tangible. It has to be clearly defined what success looks like and what you can expect, right? When you do A or you do B, like we talked yesterday about, the air temperature, water temperature differential. And, 40% of all water consumption goes to evaporation. So if you can get that ratio the right side up, it's going to have a significant impact on your bottom line in terms of how much water you need to replace. And so, there's multiple factors. It's quite a complex situation, but if you can just knock them off one at a time, and senior managers like yourself and people like on the ground, on the operational side, who can work together and kind of, have that bridging tool in a digital, data-driven model, so to speak, so that you can actually look at it objectively and say, okay, this is what the data tells us. So if we now go do A, B, C, and D, then we can expect to see, our water health index, our scores, our output, our cost savings, and so on and so forth, our greenhouse emissions, our energy savings go down.
Understanding, right? It doesn't always,
Yes.
it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
No,
It doesn't have to be
no,
$1 million.
and
It has to
that's-
be understood.
Right.
And we're trying to figure that out along the way as well as, yes, we understand that these processes we're putting in and are working towards making the water healthier and making it better for people to be in the facility, staff included. But we're also looking at how to manage these processes for the longevity of our equipment as well. And so
you're building, excuse me, yes, you're building like your beautiful facility at Trafalgar, right? You want to protect that building as long as possible. The useful life of your infrastructure, if we can extend that with 5 years, let's say, or 10 years, well, there's a dollar amount that you can put next to that, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an investment, right, in your
It's an
facilities, and I
investment,
think that's what people need to look at. It's not a cost; it's you're investing in your facilities to extend the life
Right,
of them, right,
right.
and to maintain them.
Exactly.
Another part of that, and Darin has done an excellent job at it, is the training
Right.
of the staff, right? So it's Darin and I working together, but then him instilling that importance and educating the. I want to talk about the training that you've done with them to.
No, it's just it's a systematic approach. So obviously, discussing with one of the members that was visiting one of our presentations was asking how did you get the training across, and so ultimately we were discussing different measurement kits and how to standardize our pH protocols and how to get the calibration in and how did that work and how did it it was hard at first, and you're trying to change the minds, you're
Right.
trying to set a new standard, but if you're going to get the buy-in from the staff, if you're going to change that process, you need to convince them why. You need their buy-in. You need to make them owners of the system as well. So unfortunately, taking away that test kit and saying you're going to use this one moving forward, they don't know why.
Right.
They're done. They're not going to be invested in it. So we showed by, having multiple opportunities of validation from
Right.
using one kit and getting validation through another method as well. They can see that their efforts that are being put in are, being reciprocated back, and
Right.
that, strikes that ownership, and they start to be proud about the work that they did. And then the training is a little bit easier after that, because then all you're just doing is fine tuning things using the KPIs and the metrics that you can see, and, so giving them suggestions, but also getting them involved with the process. Where do you think you can make additions here? Where do you see your pain points? And they start giving you information back, and I just collect all that and then use it as a training tool moving forward. And as we progress to another facility, I've taken their process along the way and said, hey, these were where we struggled, and we're going to change that moving to this facility. And hopefully, as we move on, progress to more facilities, that process gets easier.
Yeah, for sure.
And you get the buy-in, right? Like
get the
they're
buy-in.
seeing it. they're
Operators talk
talking-
to operators.
I know.
Oh, they
yeah,
certainly
the
do.
underground
They
is
certainly
strong.
do.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you can see that, right? In terms of, your main person who you had there training and now, taking that to the next facility.
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
and how useful is the feedback also through the digital tool to be able to tell them how they're doing? Like, is that useful? Does that motivate them
They
as well?
use that. So, and, I presented at the Better Pools workshop, you got your daily log that you write into. It's great. You flip page from page.
Right.
If you can't pick up the trends as they're going across the page, you're going to miss those opportunities for fine tuning. With the digital logbook, it's all presented you on the information there. You can select weeks, you can select periods of time and see the changes and see the
Right.
pain points. And once they start to harness that information, they're bringing it to me
They're
saying,
using
hey,
it, right.
did you see this? Did you see where we made these changes here? And I'm going through it daily, making notes of that, and then supporting and providing
Right.
feedback to them saying, hey, great job, tackling
Yes.
this. We noticed a pH little bump. What was that from? Oh, that was a backwash. Okay, great. So we're recognizing these things, but they're also starting to pick up on it, and they're becoming mentors and trainers and becoming champions
Right.
of this program.
Right.
And eventually, like I said, when we start moving this across the town, I've got a full operation crew that can be mentors
and
along the
mentor
way.
other people along the way. I think that's probably very useful. It's interesting because I think the key takeaway yesterday, as we were kind of closing our presentation, Scott was like, okay, understanding that there's a connection between water quality, water consumption, and energy consumption. Like making people to see that okay, those three things are really, really closely connected. So you mentioned pH as being, the most important parameter, right? We talk about this all the time, but it's made such a big difference. And that's kind of the message that, we try to get across, because it may seem overwhelming as you start on, one of those projects, right? You think, how are we going to move the needle? But small things, small incremental steps that you can truly quantify and measure lead to, significant potential benefits, right? And I think that's what you guys saw there as well. And that's how, help solve your
One of the
problem
biggest
from- yeah,
was
biggest.
taking that adjustment. If you were to ask any operator
Right.
at any point now, where would you want to keep your optimal pH? I believe 80%, maybe
Well,
even
no.
higher, that would say 7.5, right down the middle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right down the middle. And they would say that's my safe point, because then I know I've got room above or below.
Right.
If something was to happen, 7.5 is my safe point. And I would have been in that same position,
Yes.
saying that would have been a naturally great place. But
Right.
that's a position where you can look at it and the knowledge that you've taken out of CPO and the pool regs and grab that. But when you guys asked us to be a fine
Yes.
tune and be
Really narrow.
at that very narrow margin, being at that 7.3, changes were instantaneous.
Right.
And I thought it was going to be, we're going to see changes over a week, over 2 weeks, over 3
Right.
weeks. It was naturally almost instantaneous.
Yes.
We started seeing more consistency, and
Yeah.
it wasn't that hard to maintain.
I
that.
know it's a crazy thing, but anyways,
You have the tools as well.
the
Yeah.
tools
Tools
were
were-
tools were key.
and
Yes.
then having the data to be able to confirm.
You
that
don't have
that
a
you're
pipe
there.
wrench trying to do
No,
the
we
job.
didn't. We
You
didn't
have
stare
tools
at
that
the.
actually work.
No, we didn't
Yeah.
get to stare at the controller and ask it to do something. We had to be precise, and we
Right.
had to make sure that we were validating the accuracy of our equipment and tools. So that helped along the way, but. Making those small changes and using that equipment along the way. I've known you, and your whole bit is on accuracy, validation, and precision. And we got to that point where every time we were doing tests, everything was all aligned, and it was blowing people's minds that it can be that simple, but we have to be on top of it. So
It would have, like, if I look back a year ago, and I've said this to you before, and walked into, our pool chemical room, look at the readings, and saw our chlorine at like 0.7 and our pH at or 7.2, I'd be like, what are you doing? Get some chlorine in the pool,
Yeah.
get the chemicals up, right? Like, it's just a change of thought, but now we have the confidence in our system and our staff to know that everything is just fine, and we're operating in a very safe way.
I laugh at that moment because as an operator moving through and transitioning through to the role that I'm in now, I would agree. I would open a pool at 4:30 in the morning with 0.69, somewhere around there with a pH of 7.5, and panic that I got a swim club coming in to churn up the water, and I'd dump a bunch of chlorine into the pool to get us back up because I know that they're going to exhaust, the chlorine that's in the water, and I want to get ahead.
Yeah.
But now we don't even fret. We walk into the facility with a 0.8 part per million with a pH of 7.3, and that doesn't budge with the first initial swims that are in the water. But they're recognizing the changes as it comes in the next 2 hour swim or test, and they're making the adjustments that they need to make sure the rest of the day is going to be well suited. But those little fine tuning tweaks there are setting them up for trying to avoid that over usage of our chemicals.
Your pH is your security. Really.
Correct.
I mean, if you have a good pH, then you know that your 0.5 is going to give you very good disinfection.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. And so if you have security there, then everything else has a little bit more flexibility. Having said all of that, one of the questions yesterday was, how do we get that kind of that fine tuning, and we talked about proportional dosing and, best practices. And seemingly nobody knows. Nobody in our space knows about proportional dosing. It's very common. You go to your water treatment plant, you'll see proportional dosing everywhere because they need to have that precision accuracy and that, that flexibility. But somehow it didn't translate to the aquatics world. I don't know why.
Good analogy, Els. I came from the municipal environment. I worked in municipality for 35 years. And the water department, when I went to rec, actually the manager for water sat right next door, but there was no what do you guys use, what do you do, I know how to, and our potable water system we recognize as a higher level of hopefully
risk,
higher level of cleanliness, we'll call it, for lack of better words. And they have to be that precise, and yet do we bring that over to our pool systems?
It's so applicable.
It's
and
brilliant.
there's so many useful, we of course have our roots in municipal drinking water applications as well as some other areas like hospitals and things where risk is, really but I don't see that being any different in a pool environment. Actually, that's my perspective, is that a pool environment has just as much exposure and risk as any of those other places. I know they don't, people don't interact with the pool 24/7 like you do from your kitchen tap. But still, there's lots of learning that certainly can happen there. I maybe wanted to broaden the conversation a little bit as we probably could talk all afternoon. But just for you as a municipality, as you're looking to engage in these green initiatives, these sustainability projects, you talked a little bit about, how do you move something forward? Is there anything else that's a barrier to moving projects like this forward? Like how do you think that, for other municipalities listening, let's say, how can they engage in something like this?
Yeah, no, I think, and we talked a little bit about this in the presentation today, we're thankful we work for a very progressive municipality and have, the council strategic plan includes sustainability and those initiatives. But for other municipalities, I think, it's all about education.
Right.
It's about, exploring grant funding as well. We did talk about that and getting, educating the your councillors and working with your local MPs as well, and having shovel-ready projects ready to go, right? Because you're not always in an opportunity when grant funding gets announced. You have a short window of time sometimes.
Yes.
And having, those, if you're not able to do them right there, have, your business case all work so that you can, get it in when it comes through.
Right. And that's kind of what we briefly mentioned, I think, yesterday, as we're looking at green infrastructure, municipal funding, having that strong business case, the clear environmental benefit and the social benefit, health benefit, like those things have to be clearly defined, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I like that in your presentation. And the social part of it, I think, is where we can even do better. And,
Right.
and since then, I've organized a meeting with our communications department to work on, like we have a geothermal field at Oakville Trafalgar underneath a beautiful park.
Right.
So all the kids and families that are using that on a daily basis have no idea that we have geothermal technology
Right.
under there, and we want to illustrate,
Right.
that it is, reducing, our greenhouse gases and
great.
all the benefits that come along with that, right? We similarly want to do the same with our pools.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great
People
idea.
want to know that these
Yeah.
days, right?
Yeah.
Hotels advertise that they're green, like our new culture is the learning, but people don't really understand it, I don't think, a lot of times. But they want to know.
I think
right?
so,
What
too.
are we doing for our community? What are you giving back to
Yeah.
the community? Like,
And to show,
right?
to your earlier point about the cost of these facilities, right? And then if we can break out all of these health benefits that come along with
Right.
it, I think you get more endorsement.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to go for sure. I guess we talked a little bit about regulation. So how should we engage with regulators? Like how do we, because they're a big part of this conversation.
Sure.
They have an important job to do. They obviously are trying to keep everybody safe, but what would be kind of the way that we should engage with them?
I'd like to try and see if we can host or accommodate those that are interacting with that, and try and be able to provide an opportunity to see what we're doing and what you guys are doing, and showcase that yes, those regulations are there for a reason, but can we tweak them? Can we take some history or some examples from other countries and
Right.
that are fine tuning their regulations that are better suiting the application. So for pools, I understand where we're trying to maintain those regulations, but I think knowledge and experience and examples need to be provided to them that we can take those regulations
Right.
and still make healthy water and still make safe water, and not to have that scary output of being, if you're not between here and here, your chemistry is going to go out of whack. We recognize that there's opportunities for us to improve on
Right.
those regulations, and I think if it's not broken, don't fix it. I get that, but like I've mentioned before, that process, those regulations don't necessarily mean healthy water. And I think them getting to understand that we can make it better, and we can set standards now that
Right.
would improve overall, chemistry for all pools,
Right.
for everyone.
And greenhouse gases
And green- yeah,
and health
and
benefits
how it's reduced in that,
social
yeah.
benefits and,
Bigger.
like
Yeah,
the
it's a
bigger
bigger
picture,
image,
which
yep.
I know that they care about as well.
Absolutely.
But it's difficult, and I've thought about, regulations move slowly, and Scott knows this, and some of us who've been on that kind of in that process trying to move regulations, it takes years and years, and it's complicated. But even within the regulations that exist here, there is lots of room for having, there's a regulatory standard, and here's the optimal standard, or the optimal process. Now, it's not a standard, but it's an optimal process in which we can operate. If they become aware of that, then that's something that they can also champion and also support, because ultimately it's going to lead to all these other additional benefits. And I think that's a good idea, rather than, maybe waiting for regulations to change.
You need to build partnerships with
Right.
them. Everybody thinks that public health can run your pool, and that's not their mandate.
No.
Their mandate is to verify that the pool is safe underneath the regulation.
Right.
If I always use, it's like going to the doctor. If the doctor can't help you, right, it just says, well, I think you could try this or try that. How does that make you feel about your doctor? But if you walk into a facility and talk to somebody who goes, this is how I run, this is why, and we have this, you build confidence, and you build relationship with with that public health person, and then they're going to buy into it. Like, they're not going to shut you down. And now you can show digitally, here we are, this is what we have. Not only is it risk safe, it's cost safe.
Right.
And they're not going to ask about the cost, they're going to ask about the risk. That's their mandate, is risk.
Yeah.
Right? They're happy that your pool looks good and all those other things, but their risk is their topic.
Right.
And so we're satisfying that dramatically. And then to the public, cost savings and help a better swim, right? You go home and you don't feel drowsy. Do you know why you feel drowsy when you go home, or cough, or any of those other things? No.
Right.
So I think a public health inspector, I always, when I go out and talk to people, I always say, call them up, have a chat with them, bring them in, show them how you test, watch, test with them, build a relationship, don't run away, and don't be mad at them. They're doing their job, you do your job, everybody will be happy.
And I know when we had the Better Pools conference in the fall, we had a health inspector in our little test group in the afternoon session, and we grabbed some water from the local local facility that we were hosting the conference at, and they were baffled at the amount of trichloramine in that water. And I mean, we weren't, because
we knew.
We knew, but they were really surprised, and they were really surprised at where they thought the pH was 7. Everybody thought it was 7 because that's as low as the test kit went, I guess, but it was actually 6.4 or whatever, right?
Where
so
is this?
6.4 at a hotel
okay.
where we hosted the conference, and they had the hot tub and they had the pool.
Right.
So we grabbed some water there for our practical workshop in the afternoon, mastering measurements. And so the health inspector was in our little group, and he was blown away. And he's like, I have to shut this down because the pH is 6.4, and obviously no wonder that the trichloramines were being generated in crazy numbers, because once you go, that's why 7.3 is such an important number, and you don't want to go below 7.2 for that reason.
Right.
And you don't want to go too high, because then you got to keep pumping up the chlorine, which will then move your pH. I mean, it's like a vicious. It's like carrying water to the sea, to mention, quote, one of my Belgian friends. Anyways, it's like carrying water to the sea. That's exactly what you're doing in that situation. But all that to say, it doesn't have to be that way, right?
No, and I love the processes that we had before, changing our standards. When the health inspector used to come in, I used to look at that as an opportunity for like a checkup. Are we following the mandate? Are we doing as well as we're expected to? And not knowing that there could be something different, we're getting the input from the health inspector, them signing off the sheet, making the same measurements, doing the same tests as we were. Now with these new processes, I feel like I'm educating them when on site, and they're looking at our handheld pH meter, going, "Whoa, what's that?" And I'm measuring my pH to a standard, and I'm now validating the precision of my pH, and they're doing their tailored test kit and going, well, and I said, but mine, I can prove, I can validate this, and they're starting to get the education piece going. Hey, I should pick up one of those. It's going to give me a better process. It's going to give me better actionable item or insight to what's actually happening in the pool, rather than just going and being that, health inspector and just doing what's by the code. They can actually see and validate our processes at the same time, and get maybe a better or deeper insight into what they're actually supposed to be doing, is making sure that we have healthy and safe water.
Yes.
So the education piece goes along. So every time they come in, I'm showing them something different. Well, this is our test kit, and it shows the same answer up on the wall there, and they look at it and go, holy, like that's an awesome thing to see. And I said, we're double dipping into that, because we want to make sure the processes we push forward are accurate, and we're actually doing what we need to do.
For sure. No, I think those are all great things, and I think most health inspectors are really actually, they're great people. They want to, want to make a difference. They want to help out. They want to do the right thing, and so at least the impression that I got was, digital is great. If it helps with data integrity, if it helps with security, if it helps with risk management, if it helps with all of those things, then digital is a good thing. And and I got asked that question: is that even allowed? And I said, yes, it's allowed.
Yes, it's allowed.
But many people still don't know.
Right.
So even just to mention, TSSA regulates and accepts a digital logbook for their refrigeration plant readings. So it's already into an adoption to a different, authority figure, and seeing the digital process coming into the pools. Yes. The benefits are there, and same thing. Like, what's to happen if we had a major leak or catastrophic leak and we lose all of our previous historic files?
Right.
We have a digital logbook. We can present those anytime a health inspector wants to come in. And here you go. You can view it as well. So there are the ease of access, and that comes with it as well, as not being just a tool to help for insights and KPIs and metrics and all that, but also just validating using the cloud and using security and all that on top of it is already paramount for our success.
For sure.
And the risk, like for years now, you have that for years. It's an eternity, right? You'll have it as an eternity if risk management, or you have a lawsuit 8 years from now or whatever many years from now, which is, you can sue anybody for anything in Canada, and that's a problem. And how do we mandate that? And most people are still on clipboards. Right?
Well, that's another project that Darin is leading in Oakville, is digitizing, like just what you say, like our e-checklist, right? So if you have a slip and fall and the claim comes in, you can, you have records dating back however long, in the cloud that shows when the salt was applied and when you last shoveled, and everything from a facility operations standpoint.
Right, and you've been around for a while in the municipal setting, so it's not. Could it happen? It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be challenged, and your only defense is good documentation.
Good data,
Absolutely.
good documentation, and security in that sense.
Yeah.
For sure.
We were finding out that through that process of trying to digitize our checklist, we were finding out through the mix that we weren't even standardized. Each facility had its own different checklist, had its own different set of procedures. It had its own different, formalized operational, inspections. And once we get this e-checklist adopted and throughout the, facility services and rec and culture, we're going to find a standardized process that's going to come right across the board, and everybody's going to be familiar with the sheet. They're going to know or the application. They're going to know how to use it. They're going to know how to fill it out, and everybody sees the same thing.
Yes.
And then we have that retention of that data as well along the way, instead of us all just having sheets and did it get in this file folder and where's it gone from here, and transitioning offices and switching facilities.
Right.
Nobody knows where that goes, but everybody's going to be able to have that at fingertips.
And it'll be consistent practice, and so it'll make for training. One operator works at one facility, they can come to another facility, they know how to
create a
right?
best practice.
So this totally aligns with the work we've done with you. Totally aligns with our facility management review that we've undergone to standardize the process.
Kind of as a wrap-up question, what would your perfect facility look like? They're perfect. Like, where do you see aquatics going? We're learning, right? You folks have learned a lot in the last year, and taking that and driving other facets. Where do you see it?
So my experience right now with the Natari-based stainless steel system, it's been one of a kind. I've had an extremely successful venture with that. I believe that stainless steel, with the sustainability with it, reducing the workload that's required to maintain it. For an operations standpoint, if I'm looking at it in that selfish kind of optics of it, maintenance is reduced. Energy consumption is reduced on that. It's a big snowball effect that's positive for us. Less draining of the water. It takes a little bit of the burden off of it. So as an operations, I'd like to see more stainless steel features, more stainless steel kind of base pools coming in, knowing that we don't have to drain us. Because I live where I work, and I want to know how much we're contributing to the water usage, or how much we're pulling in. Knowing we're going to be putting more stainless steel features into our facilities knows that I know personally. But again, we should be sharing that that information, is that we're not doing as much. We're reducing our water usage. We're not backwashing and using water as much. We're using air instead, it costs less, and it's less to the greenhouse gas emissions and whatnot. So to me, that's important, and that's for me. So selfishly, I like looking at that. What I wouldn't like to see, it's hard. Like, I think there's lots of, we got to look at it as a playable, moldable field. There's got to be play features. We got to keep expanding into that to see. Slides tend to generate problem areas along the way, but if we can work on our water quality or our air quality, they don't need to be those problem areas for us. So, I don't look at slides as a bad thing anymore. I look at it as a feature, but we have to take a look at what we're doing. So, maybe a little bit deeper into it, we start looking at, if I was to fine tune this in, something that we're trying to work on at Iroquois is changing our dosing systems. I want to look at it as an operational standpoint, what takes the labor, what eases the labor from our operations. I don't want guys being back there for hours, working on adopting the systems. I want them to go back there, feel confident, and then spend the time elsewhere throughout the facility. So taking a little bit of
proportional dosing.
Correct.
Automation. How do you feel about automation? What do you think? The future facility, we can automate all monitoring.
Everything.
We should be able to automate everything, and
we can't.
But and that's correct. And
regulators need to agree, but we can't with good systems.
But then be able to go back and validate that it's
and validate it and make sure, and you still have to, and that doesn't change.
Agreed.
The operator's still going to be the operator of the future. It's going to be more educated, more tech savvy, able to validate those things.
Yes.
But a lot of the work is going to be focused on other things rather than trying to keep the facility open, which is I think where and then the upside to the the guests. Having this wonderful environment, that's I see it like as a beautiful place of community forever. But enhanced experience and some of those things, like a virtual pool is just blah, right? Just sucks. For those of us who love to swim, like it's just the most
virtual.
No, you know what I mean. Everything is virtual now, but it's not the same. Like it's like this whole interaction.
The kinetic experience with it.
Oh my gosh, it's like it's so wonderful. So we should never be without.
Built a social culture for sure.
Any thoughts for you? Final
well, we're building it right now at 16 Mile. Took our learnings from Oakville Trafalgar and building a beautiful pool there, and now with the addition of your dosing system, that's a new element for it. I think it's going to be even better than Oakville Trafalgar. But honestly, for us, we have 5 outdoor pools in Oakville, and they're all kind of standard 6-lane, 25-meter. What I would love to see is more of a destination pool. Other municipalities have done that, where they've converted, one of their outdoor pools, put in, the rock climbing wall, and the splash, type activities and features. And I think that for Oakville, I think. One day I think that would be a great amenity to really have. And
you're a big community now.
Yes, we're a growing community, and I think that would ensure that we're meeting the needs of the entire community.
We were going to call it the city of Oakville.
Yeah, we're definitely in that. But no, we have a strong attachment to the town.
The town, I know. Yeah,
I like it as well. I live and work there, similar to Darin, so we're very fortunate to have such a great community to live in.
I think that's a wonderful place to wrap up our round table. I want to just thank you guys for sharing your vision with us, your time with us. It's been great working together.
Yeah, it really has.
Enjoyed getting to know you. It's been a wonderful experience, and we look forward to helping you get to that ideal vision as well in the future as well.
Optimal.
Optimal. Exactly.
Thank you very much for sharing, and hopefully the people who are listening to the podcast can take some notes and take some learning, because I think you're a perfect example of where you can take your facilities and with the passion and the knowledge. That's so awesome.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Scott, as always, being a great co-host and facilitator.
Thanks very much. It's a great journey.
It is a great journey. I think we're doing some good stuff here. For our listeners, you can re-listen to this episode on our YouTube channel. Also on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, just everywhere you might go and listen to a podcast. We look forward to seeing you there, and we're looking forward to our next session as well, which we'll be announcing soon. It's going to be also another stellar guest, along the same caliber as these two, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks so much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Els. Have a great day.